Hi, this is another exam revision video to support students who are doing Cutting Edge Intermediate Unit 6. So in this unit, we studied the past perfect and reported speech. For vocabulary, we studied the words say and tell and adverbs for telling stories. So let's look at past perfect first. This is an important tense. Use this picture to help you understand it. We have a man, he is late for this meeting. So these people are having a meeting and he is late. So when we're talking about this in the past, we might say this sentence. The meeting had started when I arrived at work. We have two verbs in this sentence, start and arrive. Arrived is in the past. So it's ed, it's past. Started is also in the past, but we have this word had before it, and this is what makes past perfect. The meeting had started when I arrived at work. So I'm just going to put a picture of a timeline. So we have now and we have the past, and this is important, the order that it happened. So when we put them together, we're trying to say that arrived is in the past, but the meeting started before. So when we have something that is more past, if that's the best way to say it, then we use past perfect. Meeting had started. Meeting had started. So that's what we call past perfect. If you compare it to this sentence, the meeting started when I arrived at work. In this one, we see the order has changed. Both things are still in the past, but this meeting started after I arrived at work. So I arrived and then the meeting started. But in this picture, definitely the meeting had started because they're all sat down talking, and then I arrived at work. So the meeting had started when I arrived at work. This is the past perfect. So the form of the past perfect, well, it's quite simple. We have the subject I, then had, then waited. We're going to use waited for this example, for the meeting to start. I had waited for the meeting to start. Negative, I hadn't waited for the meeting to start. And the question, had you waited for the meeting to start? Now we're going to look at this sentence. Look at the bottom. I had woken up late, so I was late for the meeting. So in this one, the verb is wake. This one is easy, waited, because it's just ed. But for some verbs, you know this, it happens in English all the way through, we have a different type of past, and this is called a past participle. It's still a past participle as waited, but in this one we need to learn them. So woken is the past of wake. So we have verb, the past of wake is woke. The past participle of wake is woken. So sometimes it's very different. You've seen these before, especially in the present perfect. Let's look at these other verbs. These are also irregular. We have get, come, and set. Get is got and got. So it's the same as the past. I had got. Come, sometimes it's the same as the original verb. I had come for the past participle. And set, sometimes it just doesn't change at all. Set, set, set. I had set my alarm clock, for example, but I didn't wake up. And the last thing to do with past perfect, we have time markers. Obviously with all tenses, we have certain time words that go together well with it. Some of them are repeated with different tenses. So here's an example. The meeting had started by 9 o'clock. So at that time, at 9 o'clock, the meeting had started. The meeting had started when I arrived at work. So when here means before I arrived at work. I had worked at the company for 2 months. This guy probably got sacked for leaving the meeting. So this is a finished period of time. For, we use this in other tenses too. Now these ones, the meeting had already started. The meeting had just started. The meeting had recently started. This just means a short time before. Already just doesn't really mean this. It means, some time before. But these all mean, and notice that we put this in between had and started. Had just started. Just means 1 or 2 minutes ago. It was the second time I had arrived late, so we can also put the number of times in the past action. This is a good use of the past perfect. A couple of things to remember. I had woken up late and I'd woken up late. So we can make it shorter. And honestly, when we're speaking it, we often hear this. I'd woken up late. It's very short. Now, when you use the short version, I'd told him earlier and I'd tell him earlier, the actually means different words. In this one, it's I had, and in this one, it's I would. But notice the past participle after tells us what it means. So would can also be id. And I had had a bad night's sleep. You can have the verb have in the past. So if the verb is have, then you need to put had a bad night's sleep. That always seems strange to people when they're using it, but it's the correct use of the past perfect, so be careful with that one. Okay, so let's look at reported speech. We're going to use Mr. Tom Cruise as our example for this one. In this picture we can see he's speaking to a person with a microphone. So this is an example of reported speech. So these are things Tom says. I make movies, I am making a movie, I have made a lot of movies, I made a movie in Dubai, and I will make a lot of money. So let's look at the first example. I make movies. Yes, we know Tom. And in reported speech, we would say, Tom said he made movies. So notice the change in the verb here, make to made. This is direct speech, Tom speaking, and reported speech, someone telling you after what Tom said. So when Tom speaks in present simple, I make movies. When we report, we need to make it into the past simple. Tom said he made movies. So make becomes made when we're talking about it reporting. And don't forget, you need to change the I to he because you're talking about a different person. Present continuous, I'm making a new movie at the moment. You change it to past continuous. Tom said he was making a new movie at the moment. Was making. Look at the change. And don't forget, Tom changes to he. I have made a lot of new movies in my life. This is present perfect. And in the past, for reported speech, we use past perfect, which we've just learnt. So Tom said he had made a lot of movies in his life. Past simple also becomes past perfect. I made a movie in Dubai. Tom said he had made a movie in Dubai in 2011. So notice that both of these, past simple and present perfect, go to the past perfect. And the last example here, I will make a lot of money from the next movie. Tom said he would make a lot of money from the next movie. So these things are still in the future, but when we report them, we're reporting what was said. So it becomes a past of the future, if that makes sense. I'm sure Tom would make a movie about something like that. So here are the examples of direct speech to reported speech. Don't forget to, it's basically just make it one notch further back in the past. Things to remember about reported speech. So if Tom said this, Tom said he made a movie. Tom told me he had made a movie. Tom said that he had made a movie. So we can use the word tell, but when you say tell or told in the past, you need to put the person. So Tom told me, Tom told us, Tom told you. You need to put the person. This is used when we say who he spoke to. And you can also use the word that. Tom said that he made a movie. It doesn't make a difference. You can use it or you cannot use it. It doesn't make much of a difference. I would like to win an Oscar. Tom said he would like to win an Oscar. So there is no past of would, so it doesn't change for would. This is the same for could, should, and words, modal verbs like this. I came here to make a movie. Tom said he had come there to make a movie. So the change here is here becomes there because you're not in the same place. And then don't forget that when you change the I to he, you must also change the pronouns like this. Possessive pronouns like my becomes his. So you need to be careful when you're speaking to them. And when it's a question, so if Tom asks you a question like, can you handle the truth? Tom asked me if I could handle the truth. So we use this word, we use asked me, and we also say if when there is no question word. But if there is a question word like what, Tom asked me what I liked about the movie. So notice did you like stays in the past, but you can also say, but you change it to a sentence and there's no question mark at the end. So it is a bit complicated reported speech, but now you're quite fluent at English, you're building up all these tenses, you should be able to change them. But it takes a little bit of thought when you change them back to reported speech. Let's look at vocabulary for say and tell. So here are 4 words using say. Say a prayer. In this picture we have someone saying a prayer. Say sorry. Say thank you. You might write a card like here and you say yes or no. For tell, we have tell the difference. We have tell a joke, like this little girl's telling this girl a joke. Tell a lie, when you don't tell the truth. Tell someone off, so when a mother tells a child off. Tell someone what to do, or tell the truth, so that's opposite of tell, a lie. So you need to remember these expressions that go with say or tell. And the last part in this unit was adverbs for telling stories. Here's a couple of pictures. It's difficult to describe some of these adverbs with pictures. So we have eventually, fortunately, gradually. This is what they mean. Eventually, after a long time. Fortunately is a lucky thing. Gradually is slowly, bit by bit. Immediately, obviously, suddenly. Immediately is quickly, obviously is it's very clear, and suddenly is quick and we didn't expect it, you know. Then we have surprisingly, which is quite similar to suddenly. Thankfully, unfortunately. Surprisingly, we didn't expect it. Suddenly is a bit more quick. Thankfully, we are happy that this happened, and unfortunately is the opposite of fortunately. So without luck, unluckily. So we use these adverbs, we put them at the start of sentences. When you're telling a story, they really make it more expressive and more interesting to the reader. So if you were going to do a writing or a presentation, these words would really help to improve your delivery of that. Okay, so that's Unit 6. Remember, you studied past perfect and reported speech, and you also used the vocabulary say and tell and adverbs for telling stories.